Call to order the Wheeling Plan Commission for Thursday, April 19th, 2012. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the Secretary please call the roll?
Sure.
Commissioner Burns.
Here.
Commissioner Dorban.
Here.
Commissioner Johnson.
Here.
Commissioner Fowler, I'm here. Commissioner Schaaf.
Here.
Commissioner Steinle. Here. And Chairman Maloney.
Here. Mr. Jennings, are there any changes to the agenda?
There are no changes this evening.
There's no consent item, so we're going to bring up item for review, docket number 2012-4, Waste Management, 200 Sumac Road, special use and site plan approval for heavy motor vehicle repair facility and contractor shop. Mr. Rufato.
Paul R. Bukema, I hope I pronounced that right, attorney representing Waste Management of Illinois, owner, is seeking special use site plan approval as required under Chapter 19-07, Industrial Districts, Chapter 19-10, Use Regulations, Chapter 19-12, site plan approval requirements and associated sections to operate a heavy motor vehicle repair facility and contractor storage yard at 200 Sumac Road, Wheeling, Illinois. Andrew, I don't have the book. The standards for a special use. The zoning special use is defined in Title 19 of the Village of Wheeling zoning is a use of a parcel of land that requires review and consideration before approval due to circumstances or effects on the surrounding properties that may adversely affect them. In order to be considered for a special use, the petitioner is required to demonstrate through testimony to the Plan Commission at the public hearing why their request meets the conditions of the Village Code, including but not limited to how the proposed use will not damage the enjoyment or use of the surrounding properties. Prior to the public hearing, the petitioner provides written statements meant to show that the request for special use meets the standards established in Title 19. The Commission chairperson will typically direct that these statements be entered into the record without a full reading of them at the hearing. Based upon the testimony and supporting materials submitted, the Plan Commission will make findings in support of or against the petitioner's testimony and report those findings to the Village Board.
Mr. Jennings, you have anything to add?
Just a couple of quick notes on the staff report before I hand it over to the petitioner. There's a note or two in the materials that refer to the subject petition as heavy motor vehicle repair and a contractor's shop. Those references should be corrected to contractor's yard. There are a few remaining that I didn't catch, but they should be contractor's yard throughout the materials. Other than that, there was a staff suggestion in your report relating to the landscaping. We discussed that with the petitioner, and it seems that the general idea is agreeable. And with that, I'd like to hand it over to the petitioner.
This is a public hearing, so anyone that's going to speak has to be sworn in. I assume any one of the three of you will be speaking. Would you want to come up, all three of you at one time here, and first take the oath? Do you swear that everything you're about to say is the truth?
Yes.
One by one, would you come up to the microphone and give your name and business address, please?
Tom Mazanga, 200 Sumac, 230 Sumac, Wheeling, Illinois. M-A-Z-Z-E-N-G-A. I'm Senior Manager of Market Planning for Waste Management.
Thank you. Next gentleman.
Could you pull the microphone down, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
Good evening. Paul R. Bukema, Goldstein, Skrotsky, Russian, Nemec, and Hoff, 835 McClintock Drive, Burr Ridge, Illinois. I am the attorney for the petitioner.
Good evening, Bob Judge. I'm with our Judge Associates, the design contractor for this project. My address is 20217 Mary Treese Lane, Frankfort, Illinois.
Thank you. And whoever wishes to start off speaking.
Chairman and fellow commissioners, thank you for your time this evening. As stated, I am Paul Buikema, the attorney on behalf of the petitioner and the owner of the property Waste Management of Illinois, Inc. This evening, myself, Mr. Mazinga, and Mr. Judge will be presenting an overview of the application and requesting approval of a special use and site plan approval to operate a heavy motor vehicle repair facility and contractor storage yard at 200 Sumac Road, which is located in the I-3 zoning district. As you may know, on January 12, 2011, Waste Management purchased 200 Sumac, and at that time then began developing plans for utilizing this property, which they are now seeking approval for. As you may also know, this property is adjacent to their transfer station, CNG distribution facility, and offices located at 230 to 360 Sumac Road. The first part of the presentation will involve Mr. Mazinga just reviewing the proposed use of the property by Waste Management, and then Mr. Judge will review the plan improvements. As far as the slides, do we control that via?
You do have the ability to flip through them if you'd like that.
Okay, great. Thank you. So at this time, I will turn it over to Mr. Mazinga.
Thank you.
Thank you. As Mr. Buikema mentioned, we purchased that property last year. It's been in pretty bad shape, disarray. It was we pretty much have to gut the whole building out. Currently, Waste Management is performing maintenance operations at 2 different buildings on the property. It's not pictured in this. By utilizing this building, we'll do a couple of things. We'll be able to increase our productivity of the mechanics, improve the safety issues of the buildings, sprinkler system and everything else. And as you know, we have CNG vehicles, so there's certain CNG improvements we want to put in there. But overall, it'll make our life a lot easier and be able to continue to maintain our trucks in this property and keep our jobs there, without moving them off-site and everything. So,
Thank you.
Thank you. Bob Judge, we're the contractor, design build. This, I guess I could scroll through.
Sure.
This facility was in pretty bad shape, and what we're doing, basically, we're gutting the whole inside of this building. We're going to convert it into maintenance bays. We're going to add additional overhead doors both on the east and west sides of this building. We're going to repair all of the damaged siding. There was quite a bit of siding that was either had holes in it or was missing, so we're going to repair all of that, repair the roof, and then the whole building will be, the exterior will be painted. We're going to improve the site as far as drainage. We are going to pave the site, install a security fence tying into Waste Management's existing fence on Sumac, carry it down Sumac, and then in front, the road in front, which is Plant Road, we will extend the fencing there with a locked gate. All of the fencing will have privacy slats in it. We are going to hook this building up to city water, and it'll also be hooked up to sanitary sewer. So that'll eliminate we're going to abandon the existing well and septic system that were currently in place. The inside of the building will all have a new heating ventilating system. The building will be sprinkled, all new electrical. We basically took out all of the electrical, and we're not reusing anything that was in the building. It was too far gone, and we didn't want to risk any of that. So everything inside the building will be new. We've taken up the floor, and we have replaced the old broken up slab with reinforced concrete slab. There are floor drains in here. So we've done quite a few improvements to this building. We have started construction. Anticipated completion date is at the end of July for this building. Let's see if there's any. Well, like I said, it was in pretty poor shape when we started, and with that, I can answer any questions.
I have one question first.
Sure.
Did I understand that you're currently in the older property you own, you're doing this engine repair now?
We have two buildings we're working in right now,
And
correct?
you're already doing this on that property, and you're
Correct.
just moving it to this property?
Right.
Okay. With that, staff, do you have anything, start with safety?
Petitioner's already indicated that they're sprinkling the building. Preliminary discussions with them, all of the items in our review, they're in agreement with, I believe. The only thing that has come up, and I just briefly discussed it with them this evening, with the fencing around the perimeter of the property, we may want to suggest that they go to what's known as a pedestal fire department connection. In other words, it would not be on the building. It would actually be an underground pipe that comes out with the connection on the outside of the fence area. And that's still something that we can discuss with them.
Is that like a 90-degree pipe that?
Basically, it comes straight up out of the ground, and it's got a
Bends
90-degree elbow with the actual connection for the fire apparatus, yes.
Okay. Anything else?
Not at this
Engineering. I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
Mehul Patel. We don't have any other comments other than what we have in our memo dated April 9th.
Okay, thank you. We'll start off with Mr. Burns.
Thank you. You mentioned something about the fence, a locked gate on Plant Road. Tell me how that's going to work. I didn't see anything about that in my material. Your building is on the corner of
Yes.
Sumac and Courtesy and Plant, basically.
That's correct. And there'll be a double-wide opening in this, about the center of the property with a sliding gate, and that will be locked.
How does that affect Plant Drive, which would go to the airport
Oh, no, it's,
and Industrial Lane? It's not going to affect Plant
It's not
Road.
gonna affect it
Okay.
at all,
All right,
no.
I misunderstood something then.
yeah.
All righty. Come back. I have a few more questions. Sidewalks, does this project require sidewalks, Andrew, or a contribution?
Not by the current language of the code, no.
Okay. It says there are no existing sidewalks on the property now. Maybe I'll leave that to one of my other commissioners to address. Bicycle parking. Now, do any of your employees currently ride their bikes to work? Would someplace, a bike rack on the property maybe be an enhancement for your employees?
Nobody rides a bike to work. They're all
Yeah, okay.
maintenance guys. They drive
All
their
right.
cars and trucks. To answer your question about the sidewalk, the Sumac Road, which is right in the corner, has sidewalks right up to the end.
On the south side of Sumac?
Correct. We put sidewalks from Milwaukee Avenue on down.
Okay. Very good, thank you. Landscaping, I will also defer. Some of my fellow commissioners have two green thumbs and I don't. So they'll much more intelligently make suggestions about landscaping. There are several conditions in the engineer's report. You're going to be working with them and make sure that, you said, I guess you've already, you're going to improve drainage, and you've made an agreement. I guess I'd like to hear some details on the agreement. I said I would defer landscaping, but you've already made some agreement. Tell me on what you're going to do with landscaping.
I'm not sure. How do you change this thing? Top one?
No, the one that I think is.
I'll mess this up for you.
There you go.
As you can see, when we approved this earlier, one of our other projects, we have trees and there's what you call a timber edge with landscape timbers. There's trees. This will all be extended down the same. This fence has slatted, so it'll match all the property, all from where Waste Management starts all the way down. And the only thing we weren't going to do is just put the bushes in. We're going to put decorative rocks there instead of the bushes. I mean, the bushes don't really make it either way. It's at the end of the road, but this will definitely look about 100 times better than it has. And
Yeah.
previous owner down here, I just took the cursor off. This was always down where people would dump trucks and cars and stuff like that. And when we get done with it, there's no room to do that. The only place you could dump a car down there, because it's at the end of the road, it would be on the street, and that's not about to happen. So that'll also take care of a dumping area that's always been a problem on that road.
And another landscaping issue was the utility work you're going to do is going to actually disrupt some landscaping, and you're going to restore it? You got an agreement on that as well?
We're getting that right now. That's, actually, there's been a little confusion on that. We actually own that property right up to the easement.
Yeah?
We own across the street on the whole road. And where our property ends, that's right where the sewer is, but we're still going to get the approval from the other hang of the crown.
All right. Then that takes care of the other thing I read about where you needed permission from another owner to actually complete the required utility work?
That's what I'm speaking of. That's,
Yeah.
technically,
Right.
it's really our property, but
Right.
there could be a bush there that we would disturb. We'll make sure we put that back in, but we'll get a letter from him, too.
All right, thanks. Those are my questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Burns.
Done.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Johnson.
Start over. I have nothing.
I liked him so much, I want him to do it again.
I have nothing to add to Commissioner Burns' questions.
Commissioner Rufato.
Thank you. A couple of things. You mentioned that the fence is going to extend west and then north. What about, are you going to leave the fence that's then heading back east that separates you from the property to the north on whatever that street is, Courtesy Lane? Is that staying there? I assume there's a fence there. And you've got scrubby type of landscape, just invasive plants, all of that. Is that going to be removed also? It would be in this picture on the left-hand side going up, straight up there. That's a fence there. Is that what's happening to that?
Yeah, that fence will be. It's like you said. It's half of it's been damaged, and
right.
We're going to remove that whole fence, and that'll also.
And you're going to remove all of the
vines and everything.
vines and
yeah,
all
that's
that.
correct.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so that'll all be a new fence on the north side of the property, tying in the corner, that upper corner, with the existing waste management fence.
Okay, great. Now you mentioned the gate on this Courtesy Lane. What is that going to be used for? Is that going to be a regularly used entrance and exit?
No, I mean, it can be, but where's this thing at? This is actually open up. This part of the fence goes right into the waste management property.
Right.
The CNG station's up here.
Right.
This is where most of the traffic will come through the truck, to be worked on. A couple of these are drive-through bays.
Okay.
So they'll actually be able to go right through there. There's certainly some vehicles that come down the road and go in there, but no more than is already going through there.
Okay, so I guess to staff, that road there, does it have the infrastructure to handle garbage trucks? I mean, because you don't get a lot of traffic.
Right.
You don't get a lot of traffic back into those other buildings back there.
The road in front of Waste Management's property on this access road will be replaced. We're going to take that down to the base, and we're going to repave that road, and we're going to provide a drainage on the on the west side. So.
Did I miss that? Was that in the plan somewhere? I didn't see that.
It's one of the comments covered in the.
Okay, right. That's fantastic.
So that, yes, right now there's potholes in that, so that'll be replaced along the frontage of Waste Management's property.
Okay, then there's a brick building. I couldn't determine whether it was attached to the existing metal building. Is that going to stay there? Is that going to be office building?
Yes,
Office
actually,
space?
right. We've replaced or repaired the huge hole that was in the front of that. That's been re-bricked up. There will be a conference room. There'll be a couple of offices, sprinkler room, and then there'll be provisions for locker facilities, men's and women's locker facilities for the mechanics.
Okay.
So
great.
that'll all be in that front area.
Okay. So on this drawing right here, since we're here, I see the parking here. And I think at one time there just used to be a big mound of dirt there. At one point in time where the handicap parking is?
Yes.
There used to be just a big mound of dirt. I see that was leveled. So that's where the parking is going to go. So how will you describe, can you describe how the landscaping is going to extend to the west. On this drawing right here, is it going to be in front of the parking and in front of the fence? I'm not certain how that's going to be. Or is that parking inside? Is that parking inside?
The parking's actually going to be along this side right here, is where the parking will be, and the handicap parking will be in front of the office building here. So the fence will run down. It'll tie into the corner up here of Waste Management CNG facility.
Okay.
And it'll come all the way down to the west here, and then it'll come across, you know, the front side and then return up here. So the parking, the vehicle parking that we'll have would be right along here.
And what is this parking then?
This drawing isn't a correct drawing. There isn't parking along here. It's actually up in the front here with a handicap parking space right here. And the landscaping would be on the other side of the fence, between the fence and sumac.
Does the geometric plan show that? If we flip through that, hang on 1 second. There we go.
Yeah, this is the correct. That's the correct parking there.
So one of these has to be removed from, so this is exhibit, the one that you had just shown was exhibit B in our packet, so that's not good. This is
the correct plan, correct?
we have that one.
Andrew's taking care of it.
Okay, great. Okay, so then, if you could then describe, Mr. Basenga, you talked about landscaping, and you were going to extend the landscaping all the way to Courtesy Lane, I guess. So you're not adding any additional parking on Sumac, correct?
No,
Okay.
that is correct.
So there's this gap. There's I don't know how to describe it, but there's an opening where I think it goes right to the building, that there used to be a big pile of dirt there.
Yeah, let's see, it's right up here, I believe.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, that's going to be gone, and the fence is actually going to extend along Sumac and tie into the corner of the CNG facility here.
Okay, so what is going to happen to
So
that?
this is going to be grass in here.
Okay.
On the inside, that's going to be, what we're going to do is the sewers, the on-site sewers are going to drain into here. It's going to be like a small retention area prior to going off to the storm system.
Okay.
So this will actually, between the building and the fence here, will all be grass. Which one?
I think that's where it is. If you go to the left, I think right
Yep.
there is where you're talking about that depression.
Exactly, right.
See, the way that the trees down will all take that up. The fence will now come out
Okay.
to run right along Sumac, the same distance.
Right.
So there'll be you barely have enough room to pull over a car there. So.
Right.
Okay, and you're extending this type of landscaping all the way to Courtesy? Is that, okay. All right.
Except for the bushes.
Except for the bushes,
There'll be decorative rocks instead.
Correct, but it'll have the timbers and the mulch.
And the reason for the decorative rock,
Bushes don't do that much for it, to be honest with you. I mean, just seems a little bit less maintenance and everything. This picture doesn't really do it justice right now either, because I think this was right after they got done with the construction or something, because this is all cleaned up in here. But again, we were just going to put decorative rock in there, and this is a lot more pronounced. You can see that it's a nice.
so are you putting trees? Are you putting anything living there, or is everything's going to be all
Trees will
inanimate?
be spaced same as the whole waste management property. Trees will be identical.
So why couldn't you consider something that's higher? Because I'll be honest with you, I know that this is not a lot of high traffic down there, but the fence is ugly. So, if you could start something that has something that grows higher, so we don't have to see the fence. I understand it's a waste management company, but the point is that, rocks don't do much for me either. So I still would like to see something extended, something that's living instead of rocks.
I can tell you one reason why we don't do that. Well, it's a couple of reasons. One, we don't want stuff starting to grow on the fence and everything, and I realize some maintenance can take care of that, but it's also a security issue. Once you start growing things, you can get between the bush and the fence, and we have to satisfy, because we do the airports, we have quite a bit of security issues with our trucks. From Homeland Security, because our trucks can be utilized for different things. So we have to make sure that we can visually inspect that at any time the police go up and down that street and they can see if there's a breach in the fence line and everything. Where if you start putting anything large, and we do this at all of our facilities for that reason, people can get behind there, they can cut a hole in the fence.
Well, then we just need to have that explanation somewhere, because, just to say, I'm just going to put rocks in, it would be. Okay, and then my last question had to do with something on the fire report. It talks about any collected waste oil will be stored in an underground storage tank. I was looking at the plans, and I didn't see that specifically mentioned on the plans. Now, is it anywhere specifically mentioned where that underground tank is going to be?
There's not going to be an underground oil storage tank. The oil storage tank will be a double-walled containment tank, and it'll be in a, let's see if I can go back to this plan here. This area right here is an extension of the building. It's a metal enclosure, and that's where the the oil storage tank will be located, along with the supply or the hydraulic oil and motor oil tanks. They'll all be above ground in this separate enclosure, which is attached to the front of the building. Okay. So we don't have any underground oil storage.
Okay.
Commissioner Rufato, if I may.
Yes.
That comment was based on there was no information provided on what they were doing with the waste oil, and that was to clarify what the village's requirements for acceptable means of providing waste storage.
Great, thank you. That is all I had, thank you.
Commissioner Dorband.
Thank you. First of all, for the business that you're in, that's an amazingly clean facility. I mean, that's, it really is impressive. You go in there and it really is kept nicely. And, I appreciate that. Why you don't get a great deal of traffic down there, when you do, it's nice to look at. Most of my questions have been asked or answered, including the fire department, the engineering, and landscaping. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Steilen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a couple questions. Now, are we just talking about this corner lot at Sumac and whatever that little Courtesy Drive, 200 Sumac Road? Is that just that corner?
This is the corner right here.
I guess I'm a little bit concerned about designating that piece of property as a contractor's storage yard. Is there, in an I-3 district, you can have outside storage, that's allowed. Why would you want this to be a contractor's storage yard? You say in your report somewhere that you're not going to have anybody else store stuff on your property.
Correct, and I guess we were talking about that in the clarification of it and everything. And the only thing that would ever be stored out here, so to speak, would be, let's say, we have, if you're familiar with our type of trucks, we have a roll-off truck where the box comes off the truck. If that truck had to come in for some sort of repair and they couldn't really move it too much, we would probably take that box, roll the box off until the truck is repaired, then roll it back on. And that'd be the only kind of storage we're talking about. We're not talking about any kind of overnight storage or anything like that.
Yeah, I guess my concern is this a contractor storage yard designation could stay with the property even though, let's say, someday in the future you sell 200 Sumac Road and it's no longer yours or it's disjointed from your property, whatever, somebody could come in and use it as a contractor storage yard. And I'm just curious if it's really absolutely necessary to put that kind of designation on it.
Sure. I've actually discussed that matter with Mr. Jennings and have talked about the fact that the ordinance will probably include a provision that ties this special use approval to Waste Management's ownership of the property. So that if Waste were to sell the property, the special use would not run with the property.
Your current property, or I should say the adjacent property?
With 200 Sumac, right. We're not looking for that designation for any other piece of property, just the ability to store, their containers, from time to time.
Does your adjacent property, though, have a contractor storage yard designation and...
I don't recall off the top of my head.
It does. The waste transfer is waste transfer, storage, and then the CNG.
Andrew, if they're just going to store one of the dumpsters, if I can classify it as that, off of a truck that's being repaired, would that necessitate a contractor storage yard designation?
For just one, probably not. It would probably be under the 400 square foot. But the idea that Mr. Buchanan was referring to was the how to arrange the ordinance. There's two existing ordinances on their adjacent properties already. The discussion that we had is that ultimately, if this recommendation is forwarded to the board, the way that the staff intends to prepare this is as an amendment to an existing ordinance to combine them as a single zoning lot. So a single zoning lot with a common special use covering the various activities they do there. So that was the intention thus far.
Okay, because there's another example in the report. Up on page 2, it says that the property will not be open to the public and no third-party vehicles will be serviced on this property. And then later on, condition 4 says that the petitioner will provide a current list of companies or agencies authorized to access the site annually or on request by the village. So, those two things seem to be kind of in conflict in each other unless you're going to meld everything together. So I guess, could we add a condition then that this particular property be melded into the other waste management existing ordinances?
Yeah, Waste Management didn't object to that condition, but there isn't anybody that we planned on using that. I don't know, staff had included that request and related to the CNG facility.
That particular phrase was related to the CNG facility and should not have been part of this. I missed it in there. So,
and probably the next one too that says the petitioner shall submit a stacking plan or something theretofore.
There should be 3 conditions. There's an and the last one after the and should be the last one. I think we just ended up with them on another page, and the page break. We just didn't see that they were still hanging in there. So there should not be additional conditions beyond the third one. I think it's related to the landscaping 2007. I think should be the end of our conditions from the report.
Okay, but still, we can still have that condition that says this property is merged into the existing ordinance. Just for my curiosity, Plant Road is a private road, non-village street, is that?
I believe half of it belongs to the property owner, half of it belongs to the airport.
I'm not sure.
The address of the airport office is 1020 South Plant Road. I don't know.
Do you know offhand, Mr.
It's not village-owned. It might be under the authority of Chicago Executive Airport, but it's not village-owned or maintained.
I mean, the petitioner, I thought said he was going to make improvements to the road, right?
There's a portion of it that is on the subject property, and the rest of it is airport property, apparently.
But it doesn't belong to the village where he's only going to improve half the road?
No, you're improving we'll improve the whole road.
Okay, and how about Sumac? Is that public, private?
That's private.
Private road.
Private?
Yeah.
Okay. Just a couple comments. I would like to, I like the trees and shrubs, and, you know, I don't know how tall your rocks are, but you could probably find some shrubs that are about as tall as shrubs are. You know, I think some of the creeping junipers are, you know, only get about 6 to 8 inches tall, right? I would like to see trees and shrubs. I would like to see an official landscaping plan to show exactly what you're doing. My presumption is, and I hope you do it, that you will be putting in a curb along that section of Sumac, kind of like you did on just to the east of it, where the landscaping is, and that landscaping will go all the way down to Plant Road. And you know what? If you can, I'd like to see something along Plant Road. It seems like, I don't know, there's absolutely nothing there today. I think the road and the fence kind of come right together.
Yeah, this will continue all the way to, this is on Sumac, and this will continue all the way to Plant Road. In front of the waste management property, there isn't enough room to put any kind of a planting area. So really you got the fence, and then that'll be the road.
Well, when you say in front of the waste management area,
That's
we're talking
on Plant Road.
200, the
Correct.
200 building?
Right.
There's no place in the front, you're talking west side,
Sumac there is, but not on,
not on the Plant Road side?
Is that Plant Road? I'm confused. Is that Plant Road or Courtesy? What?
Or, yeah,
Courtesy.
It's Courtesy.
Courtesy.
Okay.
that's Plant.
Plant goes off on a diagonal a
Okay.
little bit.
That part.
Can we come to an agreement on what road is which, guys?
It's Courtesy Lane.
Courtesy Lane.
Okay. Is there any way that we can get some landscaping down Courtesy Lane?
That's actually with the asphalted on both sides of that. I mean, there's just no place to go. There's not that much room. And on the other side of the road is the airport property.
I mean, even if we could get, you know, 3 or 4 feet just for, you know,
Well, yeah, I think you would encroach too much on the parking. There's not a great deal of room in here in front of the building as it is, and to take up 3 more feet or so of space, I think would
Just to get the trucks in and out of that, those,
right.
and make the turn, we wouldn't
Right
have
there.
room. Not coming in and out.
I can understand that. Yeah.
all righty, I guess. I mean, if there is anything that you can do to get some landscaping there, I would appreciate it. I'd like to see, you know, a correct site plan of what it's going to be and a correct landscaping plan. That's my only concerns, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Commissioner Schaaf.
I have nothing, thank you.
Okay, I have one question. On the Sumac Road, you've got, is it wood chips now?
Yes.
Can you replace that with grass?
I just assume not. I mean, we like the wood chips. It looks good. Let's take care of it.
Look better if it was green.
That's why you have the fence slanted green.
Which we all think is ugly, but.
Any questions? One moment, please. This is a public hearing, and I haven't called anyone from the public because there is no one from the public here. I wanted to put that on the record. Thank you.
Just the color, one of the comments from staff was about the color of the metal. Is that going to match the other buildings?
We're actually, we think we're going to match it to the darker buildings, the hangars across the street. You know, after we've got the other buildings we painted at an earlier time lighter, and we kind of like the way the darker one is. So we kind of plan on painting it darker, like I'm not sure whose hangar it is, but the darker hangars. Then probably as our other buildings need painting, we paint those as well. It just looks a lot nicer, I think.
All right. So if we can just make that, Andrew, something.
Any suggested wording?
Well, if they don't have a color for us, to match whatever.
Dark brown to match the.
We could supply it with the name of the color. I just didn't.
That would be
great. It looks almost identical to that. To the dark
that would probably be good.
Referring to the hangars directly across the street to the south.
That's like a concrete building across the street. It's the next one down. All the other hangars are the same color. That's what kind of match that.
We can provide a color.
We'll give you a color.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, while there's a lull in the discussion, can I make a comment?
Sure.
You know, there was another automobile repair use proposed for a facility that was about a block away from the waste management site that the village board turned down because they didn't perceive automobile maintenance uses to be appropriate for that area, and they turned that project down. I don't know how the village board will react to a heavy truck repair facility, but just so you know, I'm going to vote no for this item just on the fact that the village has stated previously that they didn't want automotive repair. I would assume truck repair is an automotive repair in that area. So, you know, I'm just going along with the suggestion that the village board made. I still would like to see all the other improvements made, just in case they go ahead with this.
If I can comment, again, this is not something new we're doing there. We're already doing that, just on a different piece of the property.
Yeah, but it's an expanded use. So again, I hope my others don't.
Yes, question, is it expanded or just moving from here to here?
We're just moving from here to there.
Mr. Stylen, on another subject, you wanted a landscaping plan. Do you want to put a condition in here that they have to come back with and get an approved landscaping plan, or do you want to leave that up to staff?
I would like to see the landscaping plan, and I'd like to see a site plan with, you know, the roads and stuff, and the official parking stuff all shown on a single site plan.
Again, if I could just comment one time, the existing plan we're talking about extending was approved by the village board and the planning commission a couple of years ago as part of our beautification. I mean, that was basically, we brought everybody in, and that's the plan we came up with, and everybody approved that. So we're just talking about extending it down. We're just finishing that piece of the road.
Could I ask you something about that, Mr. Chairman? Can I ask a question about that? Mr. Mazenga, this proposed landscape plan that shows Sumac Road, it's one of the last, second to last slide, I think, in your present. There you go. Is that the one that was approved by the village board?
Yes.
Shows a lot of green.
That's it. The only thing
doesn't show bark chips.
No, that's, that was
no,
all
let's go.
chips.
Well, there's that one
It was
too.
approved with wood chips, you can see it.
Okay, landscape containers, wood chips, grass, bushes,
I
and
mean, it's
trees.
not the end of the world, I could put bushes there instead of,
And then the
just
one,
continue it straight down.
and then there was another one, an overhead drawing. If you could bring that up as well. Thank you.
Again, that's the same thing.
Okay, yeah, those look good, either or. And then, well, I won't even go into, how does wood chips working out? Aren't they blowing around and,
No, they work out fine, it's actually a recycled product, so
yeah,
that's what we like about it. You're not making more, I mean, you recycle, you're taking actually grindings and putting them back in there, so
all right.
we're all about reuse.
Andrew, do you know what the approved plan for that existing area is or was?
The approved plan for which existing area?
The picture that you're showing here, which is the old facility, right?
This is the approved plan. The green approved label is just it's the same from your packet. It's just cropped for this slide.
But I mean, is the green grass or is that?
Oh, I can't see it on this. The iPad version, I think, is probably more legible. We can pull it out. We have a full-size copy of this as well.
Anybody find it yet?
Well, is this what you're looking for? This whole list here. That's basically all here.
I have all beds shall be edged and have weed pre-emergence applied to the recommended rate, and shredded hardwood mulch spread at a minimum of 3 to 4 inches deep. It's on the right-hand bottom corner of that drawing.
No mention.
Number 11.
Right, and it also talks about the irrigation system as well in that same.
You know, I think as part of the beautification plan, again, this was the whole waste management property, which we sprinkled. I mean, the grass over in this area here in front of this building and everything, that was always dead. So that's, I think, where that all came up at the time.
So is there an irrigation system over on this other?
I believe in here there is.
Item 12 says irrigation system shall be set as per the local authority's water schedule.
And actually, in the left-hand corner, those words right there say irrigate bed.
Here?
So right there, that word right there says
All right,
irrigate.
then I'm sure there is a sprinkler system in there too.
Yeah.
Bob
There is.
Okay.
Yep.
Irrigate all beds long.
Does this satisfy you, Mr. Stylen, for a landscaping plan?
No, because it doesn't show anything on the 200 Sumac property.
This only refers to the 300.
This is not 200.
It's the 230 and 300 and
Okay.
350 Sumac. It doesn't say anything about 200.
Yeah, it's the extension of it.
Yeah. I was going to say,
Okay.
if Waste Management agreed to do exactly what's here on 200 Sumac,
Yeah, I know, I hear you, but having that said in the minutes really doesn't mean anything if it's on a plan.
So we can have a condition that they come back with that we could vote on this tonight on the condition they come back within a certain number of meetings with a landscape plan. Does that suit you?
Yes, and I'd also like to see a revised site plan too.
Both of them.
That's fine.
Just
in agreement with everyone else?
I am.
Can I have a quick clarification? Sure. The existing site plan, I think the staff report had listed the existing site plan as being the site plan. The geometric plan in this package appears to be the proposed site plan.
correct.
Is that?
That's the
Correct,
one.
yes.
So all of the notes that we've been talking about, replacing the fence, the note regarding the parking, all of those things appear on this plan. The existing
Correct.
site plan is just an existing conditions plan. It's not there's no intention for that to be the site plan.
Correct.
Okay, so the staff report lists the existing site plan as the proposed site plan incorrectly. In that case, the geometric site plan should be the site plan listed.
With that correction, does that take
Can
care
I
of you?
ask one more question?
Yeah, well, let me finish with Mr. Styling.
Okay.
With that correction, does that take care of your problem? Or your concern? I'm sorry.
I don't know. I'd have to go and review all the conditions of what a site plan should show, and I thought site plans were supposed to show portions of adjacent properties and stuff like that, which I don't believe this geometric plan does, although I do see a little something over on the left side that might be a building, but, you know, if it conforms to all the requirements of a site plan, that's fine. If it needs to be updated to be an official site plan, then it should be updated.
Mr. Patel, is that correct? It does, this geometric plan is a site plan?
The geometric plan does appear to be the site plan.
Okay.
Commissioner Dorband.
Forgive me, but I've forgotten from when you were here before about, were there any perennials put in there with any color at all? Very low growing, like daylilies or anything?
No, there were not.
Is there any possibility that you could do that? Because that is pretty low growing, and I understand your need for security, but just to add maybe some color down in there?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, we
Okay.
could add.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
So we're going to have a condition, Andrew will read it, but a condition that we will vote on this tonight, but it's subject to coming back, probably not next time, but
Oh, you know what, Mr.
with a landscaping plan.
You know
and you
what?
can work
I
with
just
Andrew
thought
on that.
There is something on here on the plant list. It does say there's spirea in here of daylilies, used, crabapple, and maple.
But
It
actually,
does on the plant list.
right, but they're not there.
No, but that's what I'm saying.
Right.
It says it's there, and that's what we approved, so we wanted to.
We'll make it a condition, and then you work with Andrew, come back and.
Mr. Chairman, I'd also like to state that if you look up on page 7 of the docket material, the geometric plan says dated 11/18/2011, and unless I'm having a senior moment, it doesn't look anything like the plan that you're showing here.
You're on page what, 7?
On 7, page 7 of the staff report, which gives that index of documents, and then you click on geometric plan, and
You'll actually find it on page 26, I believe. That's what he's referring to.
where do you see page
Isn't that what you're
numbers?
referring
Hold
to?
on.
Upper left-hand corner.
Page 26, yes. Now, maybe I'm rotated or something, but it doesn't look like the plan that you're showing us, so I'm not sure which plan is the.
It looks like the same one.
Yeah, I rotated this slide.
I think it's just
so that we'd be able to read
turn.
it. It's
If
if
you
you put it vertically with north up, it's too difficult to read.
Okay, and you push the legend in, I guess.
Yeah, I copied the legend on the other version. The legend was off to the side, so I copied it as a separate image and just.
Okay, if you say it's the exact same plan, it's just I'd like to.
Yeah, page 26
Yep.
is the same plan that we're showing on the screen right now.
And I'll take your word for it. It just doesn't look like it's the same.
Yeah, it's just turned around.
It's just the way it's turned. If you go down here and turn it, you can see it.
If you lie down across the table and look at
I
it.
hear you. I just like to make sure that whatever plan we're approving is the plan that we're looking at, so.
Any other comments?
Just one.
Yes, sir.
The difference between the Exhibit B1 with the incorrect parking and this geometric plan, the other one had 2 gates. You're only showing 1 now?
Correct, there'll be one. This is correct. This will have one gate.
Okay, so just one, looks like 24-foot gate.
Yes.
And then to exit it, they can drive through to the other part of your property?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, that's it.
Okay, I'm closing this portion of the public hearing. Mr. Jennings, would you read the conditions, please?
As soon as I write them. Yeah.
Well, while you're waiting, if I have another question in terms of process, is that appropriate now or after Mr. Jennings reads the conditions?
Let him read
Okay.
first.
Number one, that the petitioner modify the plans to address comments 1 through 5 as listed in the Engineering Division memo dated April 9th, 2012. Number two, the petitioner shall restore all landscaping disturbed in conjunction with off-site utility work. Number three, that the area to the north of Sumac Road is to be landscaped in accordance with the plans approved with ordinance number 4210, passed May 21st, 2007, with a site-specific plan to be submitted for Plan Commission review within 30 days of approval. Number four, that the geometric plan replace the existing site plan in the motion. Number five, that the existing special use legislation for waste management is to be amended to include the current request for 200 Sumac with a condition that the various aspects of the operation are considered accessory to the waste transfer use and would expire should waste management cease to operate at each location.
Cool.
Is that
You have the
generally-
condition about them coming back with the landscaping plan?
Yes, that was the site-specific plan to be submitted within 30 days of approval. Number six, that the metal portions of the building exterior shall be painted to match the hangars along Sumac Road. And I believe that was painted dark brown to match.
And they're going to get us a color. You wanted to say something, sir?
Yeah, I was just going to ask the commission if Waste Management will be complying with the terms of the landscape plan that was previously approved in terms of all the specifications that were detailed there, as well as the other requirements that were requested this evening. If it would be possible to have staff approve those in order to keep the process moving forward because of just the timeline for the process. If that would be acceptable to the commission, that we meet all the requirements of that landscape plan and submit it for staff approval and therefore be able to go forward at the May Village board meeting.
Mr. Stylen?
Can we talk about, get a consensus of the commission on shrubs versus rock?
They had agreed to do the shrubs.
So, I mean, if they continue in concept, what they did down, that would be fine by me, but I still think we need to see a plan. I don't know that we have to approve it or anything.
That we would submit to staff, that staff would have to approve.
Staff would have to approve it, then we would get copies of it. Is that, everyone's happy with that?
Yes.
Yes. All right. With those conditions, do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second. Motion made and seconded. Please call the roll.
Motion was made by Commissioner Johnson, seconded by Commissioner Ruffalo. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Ruffalo, I vote yes. Commissioner Burns?
Yes.
Commissioner Dorband?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaaf?
Yes.
Commissioner Stylen?
No, for that previous reason.
And Chairman Maloney?
Yes. We're going to have some papers for you to sign, and
Yes.
you'll be free to go.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
And it looks good. Thank you. It's good. Anything's going to be an improvement over that.
We need a motion to close.
It will be a
Do I need a
dramatic
motion to
improvement.
close the hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? There are none. We are closed.
Just as the landscape plan, just as an aside, you might want to comply and add the daylilies, because I don't see daylilies, and I was just there this week, and daylilies would still be up even if they've already dead, they would still be up.
Commissioner Dorband said a little bit of color in there.
Right, well, they're part of the plan, so we might
It
want
is
to look
part of the
at,
plan.
you might want to look at the plan and make sure that what you say is in the plan continues and is added to the existing stuff.
We had the whole village staff out before and after we completed that project. They could have been there.
Right.
Died, yeah.
Right. And that's true. Thank you.
What am I doing wrong here?
the wrong mouse.
It's a separate one, yeah.
This is so great. It's Dr. Shivano.
I'll explain it.
Thanks for telling me.
Mary, there's a whole chair full of coats not being used.
If you want to add some.
You can have, let's see,
What else?
blue nylon, beige, brown. I think the brown would go with the black.
Before we go any further, I'm going to ask Commissioner Rafato to please take the chair, and if Commissioner Stylen will, no, wait till I get out of it. And if Commissioner Stylen would please take over the secretary's position. I've been suffering for the last month with some, now I wrote it down, I can't remember, vertigo. And I'm getting hit with it again, and sitting in a planning commission meeting about Title 19 and having vertigo, you don't want to do that. So with that, I'm going to pack up.
Are you okay to drive?
Oh, yeah. In fact, I may drink and drive.
Are you sure, Bill? I mean, we can take you home. Okay.
Lay down and take care.
It's horrible. Vertigo is the worst.
As I said in the staff memo, the original intent of this item, which is the workshop discussion on Title 19, the original intent was a follow-up from our January and March discussions covering 19, 21, and Plan Commission policies. The idea is still to have one additional workshop with a complete set. To date, the heaviest lifting has been on Title 19. So we've been concentrating on that mostly, and that's what's in your packet. Given the public hearing load that we had with the other items around, we've had to move some things, and this workshop became a slightly truncated version of what we were originally expecting. But we still wanted to give you the progress update to show you how some of the potential amendments that the Plan Commission had been discussing would look on paper, and that's what you have in front of you is the work in progress. And I think that I think I have the same thing you have, and I can flip through this memo briefly and try to explain some of the ideas. The first item in our list, this is the memo that was we've kind of been copying it over and adding on to it since the November and January meeting. So it's sort of our running list of potential amendments. And the way this document's structured is it has links to the places in the code that are up for some type of amendment. First one is administrative variations. This is the first time we've put pen to paper on this idea to try to, it's fairly impossible to read. Let me see if I can make, there you go. So the idea with the administrative variations, we've noticed over time, over the last 5-6 years, that there are certain types of variations that are being approved 100% of the time. These are garage reconstruction, shed reconstruction, these types of things. And there had been a suggestion made a couple of years ago during one of the shed reviews to look for some way to decrease the burden on homeowners so that if they want to make an improvement to their property, they should not have to go through so much of an effort. And that is the idea behind this, is that rather than having to go through a full public hearing and notifying every owner within 250 feet, which, as you know, can sometimes be hundreds of people if you live close enough to a condominium property, the idea of this is to create an alternate process for such minor variations. So the scope of the homeowner notification is smaller. You'd be, the example of a shed reconstruction or garage reconstruction, you'd be required to notify the two property owners directly adjacent to you. They would have a period of time to submit comments to the Community Development Department. At the end of that comment period, the Community Development Director could approve the reconstruction or minor addition as an administrative variation, or deny it and trigger the full variation review. So that's, in a nutshell, what all of this says. There's a small commercial component as well relating to parking setbacks. So reconstruction, remodeling work, those types of things going on in a commercial building where the existing parking is within the 10-foot required setback. So this is the draft. Are there any questions, comments on the way this is shaping up so far?
Yes.
Commissioner Burns?
Thank you. Zoning Administrator, Andrew, who is that in Wheeling?
That is, by definition, the Community Development Director.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else?
On this?
On
No.
this one, just let's go down each one.
That's it for me on this one.
Commissioner Johnson?
So why are there two different titles then? The zoning administrator and community development director?
My guess is that it's a carryover from the previous zoning code. We had multiple positions defined in the code, some of which don't exist anymore. A building commissioner we don't currently have. There's a couple of we have had the zoning administrator exist under different titles, and so I think we've been using zoning administrator. The current person assigned with that, and for the last several years, has been the community development director.
So it's a subtitle?
It's just
a role,
an assignment of responsibility.
Probably a role.
Okay.
Commissioner Burns?
Thank you. Might some state or county laws refer to zoning administrators and not refer to community development directors?
Very possible that the state enabling legislation refers to it this way.
There's sometimes confusion between a fire chief and a fire marshal, and they're often one and the same person.
Commissioner Dorban?
I had the same question about, more clearly defining who the village zoning administrator is. That's all I have.
Commissioner Steinle?
Just a clarification, Andrew, on the residential remodeling, it says something to the effect auxiliary structures which would allow for existing non-conforming setbacks to continue. So if somebody wanted to take their garage in the back and make it larger but still have that same setbacks from the side and rear, we would allow them to 1.5 times the size of their existing garage. Is that?
That's correct. What they do now, and the reason this is a concern, what they do now to deal with this situation is they'll keep a portion of a garage just to not have to go through a variation process. So it is better, generally speaking, for the village for that garage to come completely down, if the foundation is in disrepair, completely replace it, take out old electrical. Most of the garage companies prefer to do that anyway. It's cheaper for them to do it. So the idea behind this is to not discourage people from making a more complete improvement on their property.
Okay, they just can't encroach
That's
more
correct.
on the non-conforming
That's correct.
side. The next question I have is the parking location says it really doesn't say anything other than commercial or residential construction for which the existing setback is non-conforming. What does that mean? The parking location could change, could increase in size, decrease in size? The Caps Plumbing that came in a year ago or so that wanted to really increase the size of their parking area and go, you know, from, I mean, right up to the lot line and stuff. Is that part of this, or is this?
The intent was no, was to allow an existing parking area to remain. I think we can add some sort of clarifying language to this. It's, when you compare it to the section right above it, it's a little light on specifics.
Yeah, I mean, I could see maybe if you wanted to change it or move it around, if you had the same number of parking spaces or something, that might be okay. But if you wanted to go, you know, a great increase in parking. Okay, so we can talk about that later, get some additional.
Oh yeah, what I was suggesting is just as in the section right above it, there's some specific language about what applies, what doesn't apply, and I think what we can do is draft something that says that the parking shall not increase the extent of the non-conforming setback, something to that idea that the spaces can move, but the degree of the non-conforming setback can't be increased under this new provision.
Yeah, I know some people in town, I forget what you call it, when you have a driveway and you put a little side parking area or something that kind of goes over to the lot line.
Pad?
Yeah, something like that. But I mean, would that be considered under this rule, or does that get into the setback?
That, normally on a single-family house, the driveway location isn't really considered from a zoning standpoint. The only time the driveway configuration on single-family comes into play is total pavement in a required yard, so we have limitations on that. But this is not intended to apply to that. I think what we can do is maybe qualify that this is multifamily. The location of a multifamily lot perhaps would help with that.
I just thought you might be making it easier for people to have a little extra parking area.
As far as I know, it's not particularly difficult for them to do it. We can check, but I don't think there's anything that would, nothing that off the top of my head, other than the total pavement in a required yard, in a required front yard.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Schaaf, anything on this particular?
No, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Jennings, the next one, catering use in industrial districts.
Without having to.
That's just a use.
Yes, there's.
That's just changing it to special use in this area.
I believe.
Right.
Let me see if I can find it. Hang on. Page
159. That's what this says.
I got 161.
Or page 161.
I wonder if I can go back. I don't see it.
There it is, right there.
It's right there. Can you see it?
Right, yep.
Yeah, we can see it.
We can see it.
All right.
See it on our...
Actually, I think the idea of this probably be more appropriate as a permitted use. The idea of this is a commercial catering operation, more like food manufacturing and not serving people on site. So I don't know. I have to go back and look at the previous code. We've had a couple of these types of businesses in town for quite some time that predate the 2005 code, and they were considered permitted. I'm trying to remember exactly what we considered them.
Is there a definition of catering service?
There is. It is on probably about page 3. Close.
Yeah, catering establishment.
establishment providing the processing, assembly, and packaging of food into servings for consumption off premises without provision for on-site pickup or consumption. Includes but is not limited to preparation of meals by a catering business for a nonprofit organization operating a meal program. I think the idea of this is that the ones that we had in the past were not exactly out of character with the industrial areas, and for some reason or another had been eliminated, I would guess, during the 2005 overhaul of the zoning code. And the idea was just to put them back. I don't think, I have to go back and check my notes. I don't think that I had originally intended that to be a special use because the ones that had existed were not a special use. Ms. Jones, do you remember if we talked about that? We can go back and check our notes, but I think the idea behind that was that it was going to be a permitted use.
Commissioner Schaaf, any comments?
No, sir.
Commissioner Steilen?
I think it should be a permitted use.
Yeah. Commissioner Dorbin?
Nothing.
Nothing. Commissioner Burns? Nothing.
The Board of Health is going to be involved with the permitting of these?
It depends on what they are, but for a catering service, yes. The food manufacturing, no, it's a state. But if they are truly a catering, then yes, I believe our not the Board of Health, but the Health Department does get involved.
So this is going to be permitted even though page 161 showed it as special use?
Yeah, I'll have to check my notes. I don't think that I had intended to put an S under that when I was drafting this.
I thought it was Superman. Okay, the next one, remove legal description requirement. And that's just on a public hearing, content of notice.
Staff is super excited about this. The state does not require. Wow. We're as excited as you can be about zoning. The state doesn't require legal description to be a part of a public hearing notice anymore. You can identify it by the common property address.
Great. All right. Any comments in general?
Well, my emails now are going to get down to really small
things.
We will probably save the petitioners. The Daily Herald's not going to be happy, but the petitioners will be happy. These are quite expensive occasionally. Our fees for the village don't cover the cost of these, and we tend to have to bill people a lot for, not a lot, but we frequently bill people for the overage on this.
Cool.
How about if it were a new property, you know, how some properties don't have addresses yet?
If they don't have we'll have to check into that. We have ways of describing properties without getting into a legal description. We've, in the past, we've used things, sounds cheesy, but we'll say the vacant property directly across the street from the property, you know, known as this. So if it has no commonly known address, we can identify it another way.
Just so people will be able to.
And honestly, people know it. If you look at our descriptions, when we have vacant properties like that, it'll be 2 pages of legal description, and then we will say vacant property next to Village Hall, and that's how people are finding it anyway.
Go ahead. Commissioner Schaaf, any comment? Commissioner Dorbin? Commissioner Johnson? Nope. Commissioner Burns? Nope.
How will people ever again know where Westbrook Farm was?
People won't care what Westbrook Farms are, or were, or was, you know.
Liquor to go to the Historical Society.
Liquor store packaged?
There is no definition. It's a...
This is new?
Yes, it's a new definition. The current language is just confined to the use table. There's nothing that defines what it is. So this is a fairly generic definition, but better than what we have now.
Okay. Commissioner Dorband, any comment?
No, thank you.
Commissioner Steilen?
Other than it seems very generic, but I guess it's okay.
Commissioner Schaaf?
No comment, thanks.
Commissioner Burns?
No.
Commissioner Johnson?
No.
All righty. Next. Airport District.
During the last hangar review, we observed that there was some confusion about what the required setbacks should be in the AP district. We're suggesting that the B3 is the most appropriate. It's our most commonly used commercial designation, and most of these buildings are built in conformance with these setbacks. So The only question about that is what is a property line? In the airport, there are a great many parcels, and so we've added just a sentence here to clarify how we're going to determine the property line. The different hangars have a leasehold area, so it may be totally unrelated to where parcels begin and end, but their leasehold area is defined. So I think that we'll use that because it's a good substitute for property line.
Okay. Commissioner Burns?
I think the airport would have any input on this, or you think this will?
We can ask them.
Okay, that's it.
Commissioner Johnson?
Nothing.
Commissioner Dorban? No. Commissioner Stylin?
Sounds good.
Commissioner Schaaf?
Nothing, thank you.
Next is the parking requirements for specialty schools.
We've had a couple of these in the last few years, and one of the most recent ones brought the question that this is not the current requirement that we've been using is the 6 per thousand, which is not a very good judge of these because they are not a one-size-fits-all business. So what we were looking for is something that's a little bit more tailored to the operation. Do you go with total number of occupants? Do you try to get fancy about how old the children are? If they're adults, do they drive themselves? And what we settled on here was the restaurant parking requirement pretty well covers the idea of this type of occupancy. So I think that we've applied it to a few of the most recent ones, and they're more or less on par on this level. We I think avoid the issue of the severe underparking if we go to something like this. It takes care of the waiting area, so you've got places where there's if there's space for parents, there's an expectation that they may be sitting and waiting. So this covers that. It covers the capacity in terms of the number of students, regardless of the age of those students, and it covers the employees. So this is our suggestion. I don't know of a municipality that has this. One of the issues we've run into is specialty school, personal instruction school is a little bit unique to Wheeling. So without overhauling other parts of the code, I don't know how better to do this right now. So this is the current staff suggestion, is to do something that's a little bit more related to the way that they operate, which varies greatly from one to the next. Questions on this one?
Commissioner Schaaf?
No, it looks good.
Commissioner Stylin?
I think this is excellent. Thank you.
Commissioner Dorban?
I'm fine with it.
Commissioner Johnson?
So if they're tight on parking space, they just don't put chairs in the waiting room? They have a huge waiting room, but everybody's standing up?
Then we come back and adjust the formula.
It just seems like an unusual thing to tie into it.
If they are, they do have a floor plan associated with them. If it's a specialty school, it's a special use. So for the time being, you're going to see their floor plans, and you would catch their giant chairless waiting room. So.
Just the straps like CTA.
Call it the Johnson rule.
Commissioner Burns?
Thanks. I hadn't thought of that until Commissioner Johnson mentioned it. Is it redundant to talk about the waiting room if you have one space for every 3 students? Would somebody be waiting that wasn't?
The thing that we were talking about on this is the overlapping class problem. People coming 15 minutes early to pick up their kid, to drop off a kid, and somebody being 15 minutes late. The sort of the potential for parents to just be there, and if there's a waiting area, the likelihood that they're going to come in, watch the last few minutes of a class, because this covers a huge variety, martial arts, academic classes. It's a huge, huge variety of things.
My comment is, you say peak attendance. How is that defined?
It's the some of the other schools use enrollment, and I don't know that you necessarily have enrollment. So I was just looking for something that wasn't enrollment. I didn't want to, enrollment in a specialty school could be 100 and their capacity could be 20. So I wanted to distinguish that. Enrollment in a public school is usually more
So when a specialty school comes before us, that's going to have to be one of the criteria that's going to be in their submission to us is their peak attendance.
Similar to the last one, what's the maximum capacity of each classroom?
Okay.
They had 3, so you add up those 3. I think that's what the intent was here. I can.
Great. Alrighty.
Are there any other questions on this one?
I guess I'd ask you to reconsider if you think that waiting room issue is necessary, but that's all.
I would leave it to the commission. I'm fine cutting it. I have no, I was just trying to cover the various.
Well, my question to my fellow commissioners is, do we want business owners to worry about how many chairs they're putting in their waiting room because it's going to cause them to have to find another parking spot or two?
Or they could put in benches and then get around it that way. I would get rid of the tie-in to the number of chairs.
I would agree. Commissioner Dorbin?
Well, I think we need to tie it into something. I mean, we can't just say, I mean, how else would you define it? If we didn't go by what Andrew has here, what would you do?
One for each employee and one for every 3 students at peak attendance, or one for every 3 students at capacity attendance, or more. A better way of saying that.
I think it's fine the way it's written.
Commissioner Stylen?
Either way is fine. I think we ought to try it, and if it fails or if it doesn't work, we adjust accordingly. Let's do something.
Commissioner Schaaf?
Well, the whole thing is going to take special use, right? So they're going to come before us and they're going to have this floor plan, and it's going to say, I have a 19 by 24 foot waiting room. I'm going to put 2 chairs in there. No, it doesn't fly. Okay? You have to put you have to apply some kind of common sense. If they're going to say, well, we're only going to put 6 chairs in there, you know it's not right. So I would leave it tied in.
I also would leave it tied in. Leave it the way it is.
Yeah.
Next one is a group home cap of 5 individuals, special use for 6 or more.
Right now, let me see if the first link actually shows this. Maybe a couple pages short. Hang on 1 second, please. Right now, group homes are included in the definition of family. If you can read through the stricken text, it says a group of not more than 8 persons with developmental disabilities who need not be related by blood, marriage, or adoption, living together as a single housekeeping unit in a dwelling unit, plus, in all cases, usual domestic servants or attendant support staff, in all cases, shall be located a minimum of an 1/8 mile from any similar housekeeping unit. This is a pretty common way for a municipality to deal with this type of residence. In the last few years, some municipalities have been crafting a more specific set of regulations. We read a series of regulations passed by Des Plaines that were recently reviewed as part of a special use review for one of these types of homes, and felt that it was a pretty good parallel to the way that we've dealt with them in Wheeling, in that many of the homes that have there's not that many, but of those who've come to us, the ones that we've reviewed tend to run into an issue of sleeping area or code compliance before they approach the maximum code limit that's listed here. So they don't tend to have that many anyway. But for those that do become larger, there is this potential that a large group home with a larger staff might start to have impacts that would make it slightly different than a typical residence. So we took a look at the displays regulations because we were curious as to how they distinguished, and having reviewed it, we felt that it was a pretty good set. So we used that as the basis for a set of holy moly, where'd I go? Let me try that again. So we used the displays to establish a definition, taking it out of the definition of, taking some of the language away from the definition of family, and just referring from that family definition to a new definition of a residential care home, which is a very similar definition. The additional text here points you to a series of regulations under our residential use regulation section. And anybody see what page that is?
23? Or no?
I was hoping that my document, I would be able to hit back.
Yeah, 23 is this page. Yeah.
Okay, so this this section here is intended to distinguish between small residential care and large residential care, and it mirrors very closely what we currently have, except for the fact that the largest homes, the 6 to 10 persons, are considered a special use if you go to the use table. The 5 and under plus staff is considered permitted use. There's another pseudo special use here where you have the proximity, which is very similar to what we had. It's 1,000 feet instead of 1/8 of a mile, but the idea behind this is that instead of just prohibiting them completely, it provides the framework for review of the second home. So if you have an existing residential care facility, residential care home, and you'd like to locate one within 1,000 feet, there is a process that you would need to go through, which is similar. If you look at the criteria, it's pretty similar to the type of special use review that we already have. So the idea behind this was to distinguish between the types of residential care homes that would be more likely to be in character with their residential area and one that was larger and might need some additional consideration. I think this stops right there. There we go.
I'm going to ask a question first. We don't take into consideration number of bedrooms.
You do, but it's when you look at let's see, it's picked up both by the state and by the village. The state fire marshal reviews residential care homes currently. There's the sleeping arrangements in a facility that is in a single-family home environment like this. There are requirements. I don't know all of them off the top of my head. Some of it relates to the amount of square
Okay,
footage.
so it's covered under some other code.
It is covered, and
Okay,
it's covered
fine.
in here. We do reference it in here. The definition, I believe, also references it, but it is in the language here, which I will find. It says something about local state license certification.
Okay.
Applicable local and state licensing and code standards. And
Okay.
what that means is the life safety, et cetera.
Cool. All right. Commissioner Dorband, any comments?
No, none, thank you.
Commissioner Johnson?
Nothing.
Commissioner Schaff?
I'm looking at the table where it says you distinguish between small and large, permitted use and special use.
Yes.
And I guess I'm having a problem with permitted use. That's all.
The permitted use classification is something that has been tested in a variety. There's a long history of legal review of the special use requirement for small group homes, and it's become I don't know. Not being a lawyer, I don't know what the correct way to refer to it is, but it is generally accepted that the definition of family can have some limitation, but it's right around this 5 area. There have not been very many tests to the.
So precedent says that small, if they take you to court, small is going to be a permitted use.
Yes.
I still don't like it, but and we're going to get burned on something similar, but permitted versus special. I would still like to see it come before the commission. That's all.
Okay.
Commissioner Stalin.
Thank you. I think I'm not 100% certain if it's called a group home or not, but I believe that there's one on just down the street from my house in Kingsport.
Yes, there is.
Has a number of people living there. I believe it's 4, but my concern is the large 6 to 10 accommodation. Is it possible that they could be in a single-family house situation? Again, my concern is on parking. If 6 to 10 people could live in a house in our neighborhoods and have visitors or people coming over and stuff, I would just think that parking would be a concern. And how do we get around that, or what are the rules?
I think on what I read from the Displains, I think it was probably a couple months ago now, maybe 3 months ago, the articles that were in the paper about the Displains, that was actually one of the reasons that they had originally established the distinction between the small and the large, is that there's this recognition that the larger the home, the larger the staff, the more cars, the more visitors. So they had originally created the special use classification for the large group homes for that reason, is that there's a point at which, and they chose 6, there's a point at which the size of the home makes it more likely to be incompatible, which is the basis for special use review, is the potential for impacts across the property lines. And I think parking is definitely one of those.
So parking, I mean, that could be a special use area of discussion.
Absolutely. How large is this driveway? Is there a garage for the staff? Those types of things will be covered during a special use review.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Commissioner Burns.
Thanks. To Commissioner Schaaf's point, are these group homes that currently exist in Wheeling, are they permitted use?
They're permitted as a family type. They're a single housekeeping unit by the definition in our code. And as I was saying, that's a very common way to handle it. The regulation that Displains has is pretty new.
So they didn't come before us currently?
No.
Do you still think that we could get burned by continuing with the policy that we've had, Commissioner Schaaf, or?
I think people are going to try to stretch it, just like the daycare.
Right.
If I can get 4 in here, then maybe I'll get 5, and 5 will turn into 6. I think I like to see it come before the commission to make sure that some type of control is still maintained.
Well, how does coming before us control it? Because
you can put a condition on there that says you go over 4 and you have got to come before us.
Well, we had that with the daycare, and
I know, and they
still getting away with it.
Try to enforce it. Yeah, it's tough.
This does to that point, this does increase the control. This does increase the oversight and the regulation. Right now, the 6, 7, 8 homes would not come in front of you. Under this, they would. So this does expand the likelihood.
Can you have the attorneys look at the small residential care home to see what they say? I assume you maybe have already, or you just...
I've talked to our attorneys in the past about our existing definition and the possibility of special use, and they rapidly pointed out that it's not advisable.
It's not advisable to make it special use?
That's correct.
Okay.
There's too much history of it being overturned.
Okay. Then I would say we should leave it as a permitted use for the small. Is anybody in disagreement besides Commissioner Schaaf? No? Okay, great.
And I can, with some advance notice, I can prepare that for you. I can get the...
Yeah, I know how lawyers feel because, you know, if I can't win the case, I don't want to go to court. And that's exactly how they feel.
Well, but there is some truth to that because you have to weigh the expense of that, and you have to weigh, as Commissioner Johnson said, you have to weigh the ability to police something. And if we have if you can go up here, Andrew, I mean, sure. You've got the state and you've got the state and you've got the village policing it more so than
the commission, yeah.
Right, state license and certification. That's good for me. Donation boxes.
Donation boxes. This is another one where one of our other local municipalities has done something that I think we already do, just not as clearly as what they did. I don't know if you've read or followed the story of Schaumburg and their donation box. So reading through their discussion, it was very similar to the discussions that we've had. Our current treatment of donation boxes is to prohibit them as a non-accessory accessory structure. So they are not accessory to the principal use of the property, and therefore by this chain of definitions in our code, they are prohibited. So following the Schaumburg story led us to consider this, the idea of first defining the donation box. I'm not going to go through it. It's very, very basic.
That's fine.
And then, in addition to that, setting up regulation for it under the non-residential. This is under accessory. So, and this is, again, doing what we do already, just pulling it very clearly in black and white. Donation boxes are prohibited in all zoning districts unless the box is accessory to the principal use of the premises.
So if we had a Salvation Army store and they had a box outside, that would be permitted?
Subject to site plan and appearance review.
Right. Okay. Commissioner Steilen.
Yeah, just a question. I mean, we see these red boxes all over town. If the red box owner said, hey, I'll sell you this box, Mr. Businessman, you know, for $1, you own it, we'll collect from it, you're doing a service for whomever, then the qualification owned, maintained, operated by the owner of the premise would apply.
But it's the use of the building.
When you say accessory use, does that mean a paint store could have a clothing box? I mean, how close does accessory use have to be?
Well, accessory is defined. It's in support of and
has to be related to
the principal use. So accessory is a defined term in our code already. It's not just the commonly accepted definition of accessory. There's a zoning definition of what accessory is. I could probably on page 4. Right, with adult entertainment. Here we go.
But you know it was on page 4. You know this stuff by heart?
He's a pro.
Anticipate your question.
Accessory building or structure maintained on the same lot under the same ownership, smaller in floor area, building bulk. Let's see, is there an accessory use then conducted on the same lot, subordinate area, contributes to the comfort, convenience, and necessity of the party conducting the principal use, will not alter the character of the area or be detrimental thereto. So between the two of those accessory definitions, I think there's a pretty good connection between the principal use and
Has to somehow be related.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
So there shouldn't be one at Phillips 66?
There should not be one at Phillips 66. What we find more often than not when we notify property owners of the prohibited box, that's the first time they've heard of it. They are not typically authorizing these boxes.
They just get dropped?
They get dropped.
Right.
They get dropped in large parking lots where they assume the ownership is out of town. Some company somewhere else owns the lot and doesn't watch it.
Commissioner Schaaf.
Yeah, as long as it's defined, and I don't like drop boxes anyway for anything, but yeah, it's okay.
Commissioner Darban.
As long as it's, structured so that we don't have these popping up everywhere,
Seems like, yeah.
I'm okay.
Commissioner Johnson, any other comments?
Who would police it? I mean, if they drop these things off.
We police it the way we police it now. It would be easier.
Like Phillips 66.
It would be easier to do, to have instead of the string of 4 definitions, you could write a property maintenance ticket that says, this is the section, here you go. It would just make it just that much easier for us to do it.
We drive enough around here. I call in all the time if I see one.
Okay.
Commissioner Burns?
Looks good to me.
All righty. Additional topics on page 2. Link 1. Indication of areas to be irrigated?
There is, the code has a, under the, there's a couple of places where landscape irrigation is mentioned. The site plan submittal requirement is not one of them. So we want to make sure that the code, it's already covered, it's required by the code, but if they were to look at what is required on your site plan, it would not be listed. So it's somewhat redundant, but at least it puts it in a place where they're more likely to see it.
So it's part of H, landscaping plans, and what you're saying is that indication of areas to be irrigated?
Yes.
Okay, great. Commissioner Burns, any comments?
No.
Commissioner Johnson?
Nope.
Commissioner Darban?
No?
Commissioner Styland?
And areas to be landscaped could just not be via a hose and a oscillating sprinkler?
No, I think this refers to what must be provided in a landscape plan, where they're going to put it. Showing it on a plan, right?
Right.
And
But it just shows the area, so an oscillating sprinkler would, does it show the piping of the?
What we normally, by the time we get these normally, once it's construction document time, and it takes it, a lot of times there's that section of notes with the plantings, and at the end of it, note number 14 is the only one that they don't just keep recycling. It's our note. They'll say 14, landscape irrigation to be provided. So what we're suggesting here is indicate where. We have this question all the time, what's going to be irrigated? And usually when you ask that question, you find out, oh, it's the first 10 feet right next to the building, or, oh, it's this bed over here. So we want them to just go ahead and put it on the plan to skip that. Get to the point where you actually say, this bed is irrigated, this bed's irrigated.
So would that help alleviate the situation like occurred at Family Video where they didn't install it at all?
That was a mistake. I mean, they made a mistake in their construction.
But I mean, had they shown it on the plan, it might have been
probably would have made it more likely that somebody would have not made that mistake. But they have since remedied that. But yeah, that's the idea.
Commissioner Schaaf?
So it's going to be not only where, but how. Is that what we're trying to say?
The how, I think, on a brand new property, it's in-ground irrigation. I don't think there's much question in the code the other section of the code, which I can't remember exactly which page it's on, the other section does refer to.
Yeah, it's just not going to be a hose that's got holes punctured in it and.
Right, that is covered. What this does is says, put it on the plan. Where are we talking about?
Right, okay, I'm good with it.
Okay, great. Modify submittal requirements. What's interesting here, Andrew, is you indicate digital.
Yes.
Okay, but when you go to what you highlighted.
Yeah, this is a work in progress.
Okay, great, because I see 17 copies, and are we doing 17 digital copies? We all get CDs?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. So this is
we're going to have a courier deliver them.
Great. Except we don't have drives in these puppies. So this is just what you're going to be working on. That's fine.
So we're in the middle of this. There's, I think, if I could go back real quick. This is another one that's, once we started to really get into the language here, I think we realized what the issue is, and I'll try not to go too long on this one. I think we realize what the issue is here, is we have a pretty clear section that talks about the way it's written right now. My belief here is that what we're talking about are changes to a very recently approved site plan. How to review a proposed modification to a very recently approved site plan. We have been extending this definition, in my opinion, to cover new submittals. So somebody who hasn't done anything in 5 years comes in front of us to talk about a site plan change. We're trying to figure out if it's minor or major, and we've been using this as a guide, which I don't think is really how this section was intended. I think it was intended for, you've gone through your approval, you're in construction, and you need to modify it. So I think we've been using, for lack of any better section, I think we've been using this section inappropriately. So once we've started the work on this, what Ms. Jones and I have been doing is trying to figure out some of these things. I think, especially for a new submittal, don't make a whole lot of sense. You know, the moving a fire lane obviously doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So I think what we're trying to figure out is what are the appropriate distinctions between major and minor. We'll still include a section that says that at the discretion of the community development director, something can be considered major, but it'll be a guide as to what's major and minor. This one, we've got, I think we looked at Barrington, and they had something kind of similar to this. So I think we're going to keep looking to avoid reinventing the wheel, see if we can borrow language from another municipality's code. But the idea is to have two separate sections. So this new word here is the key to this: revisions to approved plans. Right now, I think this section is really all about revisions to approved plans. And so what we've been working on is the section above. So the general procedure for site plan and appearance review, that's what we've been trying to define now. So major versus minor, what is major? These are the construction, obviously, of a new building. An addition, a substantial addition would be a major. Replacing the primary exterior building material would be a major. So things like that. So we're trying to, brand new submittal, is it major, is it minor? And this is where we are so far. So if you read through this, you don't have to do it tonight, but as you read through this, if you have any suggestions about, something jogs your memory about a project that came here a few years ago and you want to suggest that, well, that one probably should have been major, go ahead and send it our way and we'll take a look. Okay. And we'll keep looking at other municipalities to see if we can find a really good example.
Great. Okay. Does anybody have any comment? No? Okay. And the last one didn't have a link to it, didn't go to anything. Did it? That one?
Huh?
Oh, mine didn't go there.
All right. The zoning code is, a little unclear on the standards for a text amendment. Changes to the zoning code and zoning map are sort of grouped together in this one section of the code, Chapter 1914, Ordinance Administration. The original text, if you read it, changes and amendments is the way it's worded. And then it goes on to refer to two types of changes and amendments, amendments to the map and amendments to the text. The standards are written more so for the rezoning in the sense of the map amendment. But because they all come from the same original section, we have had this question as to what the standards are for a text amendment. And we've been using these standards, but I think what we are, one thing we need to do on this is just have the village attorneys review this as well. Let me just write myself a note about that. This section here we're adding, the petitioner's response must include a brief explanation if a particular standard does not apply to the type of action requested. So some types of text amendments could in fact have specific geographic implications. You could have the R1A district. You could modify it in such a way that it applies to a specific area and could affect the character of that area. Yes?
Isn't a text amendment, though, more a definition of what a zoning area might be? I mean, the map just covers R1, R2, R3, the big areas, and then the text amendments are more or less the subtleties under them, aren't they?
The subtleties under the, so are you referring to the requirement to notify, or are you referring to the requirement for standards?
The requirement for standards.
So under the requirement for standards, yes, I mean, it could be the specifics of the proposed amendment might have geographic implications. And I think that, so what I was getting at, if you look at these changes, compliance with the intent and purpose of this title, we had a text amendment recently where they answer the standard for both of these, actually, the intent of the zoning code and the intent of the comprehensive plan. So they found sections of the zoning code and of the comprehensive plan that they felt their particular amendment was supported by statements in both of those documents. A rezoning, a map rezoning, is more likely to need that sort of standard, that sort of support. But there are certainly text amendments that fall under it. So we've used these standards for the text amendments, and I think we're trying to make sure that if we continue to do so, that we're doing it clearly and correctly. So we'll have the village attorneys review this as well. There could be a question of the state legislation that governs municipal zoning as to what those standards are. Some of the special use and variation standards are defined by the state, and we just kind of copy them and reword them slightly.
My only comment, it just seems like a zoning change would be a lot more significant change that would require maybe a completely different set of standards than, I'll say, I hate to say it, a more trivial map text amendment change that might have a less stringent set of standards that need to be judged by. And maybe they should have, two sets of standards rather than trying to intermix the two. That was my only comment.
And I think we'll try to find out if that's the case. If there's no set of standards that already exists, from state legislation, we'll either make up our own or just remove it from our requirements.
Okay.
And then there were other things on the list that are kind of under review right now. There's the question of the sidewalk. There's some ongoing discussion, some workshop items related to concept reviews that would affect the PUD, the way our PUD process works. So rather than throw something out, I think it's probably more appropriate just to wait and see what some of the discussion is, and then try to craft something that matches that when we bring it back again.
Great. Good job. Thank you.
Is now a time to ask more questions? before we close this piece?
Sure.
Okay, go ahead.
Thanks. Sidewalk cafes. Do you think maybe we should say something about sidewalk cafes in the code? I know Chicago has some language that says this is how you rope off a sidewalk cafe. These are the plants we would like to see. Here's how much it costs to get a permit for a sidewalk cafe. Right now, we've got Agora, of course. First, they built stone walls and a fortress sidewalk cafe, and then they tore down the walls and put something else up with new owners. I guess XO built the fortress without a permit, but then I don't think the original fortresses had permits either. Should we maybe look at what other towns have for codes for sidewalk cafes, so that, because up at Chipotle and the place next door, they've just got some, tables and chairs on the sidewalk, and it doesn't look too bad, but maybe we ought to be, proactive.
Yeah, I think one thing that if we take that up, the primary distinction is going to be public sidewalk, private sidewalk. I can't think of one off the top of my head in Wheeling that's on a public sidewalk, and that's a lot of the Chicago regulation.
Yeah.
is the public sidewalk. So there's going to be a little bit of a difference, but the idea of having some sort of framework for,
How much
shall
sidewalk?
require a minimum 5-foot clearance for walking, that kind of thing. I think we can definitely set up, what's the review? It's minor site plan review, that sort of thing. We can probably come up with something. But yeah, we could take a look at other towns and see how they do it.
Thanks.
Commissioner Dorban?
Thank you. In reviewing what you gave us, which was really nicely laid out, thank you, I appreciate it, because it really did, the links were terrific to help me go back and forth. But then I went back to the zoning code itself, and in reviewing it along with what you sent us, came to looking at 1904.060 and the minimum floor area for dwelling units came to my eyesight, and I'm looking at it and going, I really think these are, they look like antiquated numbers to me. And I'm wondering, while I hate to put more burden on staff, I really would like to see what other villages do. I'd like to see if they use the same kind of standards that we have. It was on page 44 of what I think I pulled off, but it's maybe not in the same as yours. There it is. I don't know how anybody else feels about it, but I would like to see us certainly raise the bar. We've been working very, very hard to do that across the board, and I'd like to look at this one as well. If anybody else has an objection, that's fine.
No. I think that's what we're here for.
Just so I'm understanding the request, is just to take a look at maybe what some other municipalities do, what the ranges are, how they structure this, if there's how we have each additional bedroom is 125 square feet. Just kind of see how they break it down. Is that?
Yes.
Okay. Take a look. Okay.
Any other comments in general about what we're discussing here? Zoning codes? No?
So we are, as I said at the beginning, we're anticipating one more workshop on this, just because in the past we've opened these hearings, then we have this discussion, and there's a request like Commissioner Dorban's request, and then we're continuing and continuing. So I think our goal on this time is not to do that, is to have all the workshop discussions, publish it once, and not continue it repeatedly.
Okay. Good approve. Good. Okay, continuing on other business. Commissioner Schaaf? Anything?
Well, I keep going back to the text amendment that we approved last week. And what I failed to realize is that we gave the petitioner permitted use when they went in for the residential support. And all along, I thought it should have been a special use. And I didn't look at that table. How much time do we have to change a decision? Or do we even have time to change a decision? I made a mistake when I voted yes, when I know I should have voted no.
I would have to look to be 100% sure, and I don't want to give you an incorrect answer on something like that. With a recommendation from the Plan Commission, I think you can, we can check into the reconsideration, because I'm really not sure on that. I think that you do have the ability to just note for the record, as you're doing right now under other business, that you believe you misunderstood the vote, and that alone, I think, can be taken into account as a statement that would go on to the board, whether or not that needs to be a letter or a vote to reconsider. I am not 100% sure, so I can find out the specifics on that. But just noting publicly that you believe you misunderstood what you voted on, I think is one way to do that.
And I think something has to be reopened. And somebody
somebody
has to reopen it that
voted in favor
of it, and then
we would need to
find out for sure.
Right. Most of the formal reconsideration is related to a regular meeting. So the next regular meeting would be next week.
Right. So
we can find out between now and then if there's.
Well, but that was a regular meeting, and this is a regular meeting. And if I remember correctly, it had to be done, or some comment had to be made to test if the commission wanted to reopen it at the next regular meeting. Jim, do you remember?
You know,
you did, and it was
I actually do. I have not been on the board. I've never experienced that on the Plan Commission. So I would not be a good judge to say, yes, that's how we do it.
My understanding, and again, this is not something that happens frequently, my understanding is the next regular meeting is the deadline, and the third Thursday is a special meeting for the Plan Commission. It's a scheduled special meeting, but it's a special meeting.
So our next regular meeting is
the next week.
Okay. So we have until next week.
Well,
if we can figure it out.
So I hate to do semantics, but the title of our meeting tonight says agenda for regular meeting of the Plan Commission. So, and the last meeting was agenda for a regular meeting of the Plan Commission. So, I hate to be technical, but we're advertising regular. And I would just be curious.
On the annual schedule, was this a workshop date?
Yes.
No, I'd just be curious, though, Norm said he didn't know that he was voting for a permitted use. I voted no because I wanted it to be a special use. And I thought on the consensus, everybody said they wanted it to be a special use. Just curious, did you all have the same misunderstanding maybe?
Okay, where my confusion, excuse me, where my confusion came, I understood the text amendment and the wording that should go in. What I overlooked was the table that said it was a permitted use or a special use. I mean, I understood that, the three officers were going in there and no medical and everything like that. I understood that part. What I overlooked was the permitted use versus special use.
See if I can find.
I personally knew that I was voting for permitted use.
Yeah, and, okay. And I
I
didn't.
did not.
I did. I didn't want it to be a special use.
Commissioner Johnson, Commissioner Burns said they knew they were voting for permitted use. And I knew that after Mr. Ferrillo said that this is their text amendment, they wanted a permitted use after he asked. So I knew that, but
I don't think I heard Mr. Ferrillo say that. So therefore, I have to admit that I thought I was voting for a special use.
Well, see, I thought that part made it a special use. That's why, you know, and Ferrillo, Mr. Ferrillo kept saying that that was the village's way of helping the petitioner, you know, put this in. You know, well, anyway, I understood the wording of it. I just didn't realize that it went in as a special, as a permitted use.
anything, Andrew?
I'm just checking to make sure. We publish these meetings for the year, and we publish the third Thursday as a special meeting. And I believe it's because that's what the municipal code says, is that we have 2 meetings, and then the third is a special. Regardless of the agenda, it's set up as a special. I don't know that we can make it regular if it's not on the regular schedule.
Would it be out of order to make a motion to reconsider at a special meeting?
Not that I know of.
So you were asking a question, when is the time limit? And Andrew's understanding is maybe the next scheduled regular meeting, but that doesn't mean that making a motion to reconsider tonight would be out of order, if that's what you want to do. Of course, Chairman Maloney's not here tonight.
And it certainly does not give us the opportunity to fully explore it with our attorneys.
No.
To make sure that that motion is made. It's so infrequently done that my advice is
Let the attorney
staff is to
advise us.
Ask the question to the attorneys
I can't hear you, Andrew.
My advice is the village staff.
Which is exactly the problem, which is what obviously, and I didn't hear Mr. Ferrillo either.
So my advice as the staff would be, given that it is such an unusual action and I'm not familiar with it, is to make sure that I'm asking a very clear question to the village attorney for assistance prior to the next regular meeting.
Right, and my question is set up as what is the procedure? Okay,
and he doesn't know.
Please?
He doesn't know.
Right, and that answer is fine to identify what that procedure is.
To take that further, though, Andrew, and,
Yes.
and I don't know if we can do anything about it, because if Commissioner Schaaf has that concern and you're not certain whether this is the next regular meeting or not, we then may have lost that window if Commissioner Schaaf wants to bring that up, if this is a regular meeting. We then, it's a moot point if we come to find out that this was a regular meeting. Now, of course, we should have probably brought this up earlier in the week, but be that as it may, be advised that if we find out that this is a regular meeting, we have lost that opportunity to bring that back up for a vote next week.
And tell you the honest truth, Jim, I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Okay, and because in my mind, even if Phil Haven goes through and it is permitted use, what I want to do is ongoing. The next petitioner that comes through with that, I want it to be a special use.
Andrew?
Yes.
I think tonight we even talked about changing the use table a little bit, right? We're not changing the text amendment itself. We're just talking about changing the use table. We could change the use table next week, next month?
Right.
No?
Oh, yeah.
Right. Not without publishing a public hearing.
Right.
Right, but I mean.
But it could be part of our discussion. It could be part of our discussion that we've gone through on Title 19 and making it a special use.
Yeah.
Yes, right.
I mean, just like we did tonight for the workshop things.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes, we can.
So, I mean, we can always fix it up or change
Fix it up,
or.
but specifically for the text amendment for last week, there is a possibility that the window will be closed if somebody wants to bring that up for another vote or reconsideration.
And I have no problem with that.
Okay.
In which case, if the desire of the Plan Commission at that point is to note for the record, I don't think that there's any problem with the Plan Commission writing down that confusion and passing it on. As a recommending body, I think the question of reconsideration would be more critical on an item where the Plan Commission had a final action, and you have this, the procedure is more critical than to be sure that the Plan Commission is making a motion to reconsider on something that it was the final action. On a recommendation, I think, especially given the circumstances, it would be advisable to make sure that the procedure is followed 100% correctly.
Right.
Great. Okay. Anything else, Commissioner?
No, sir. Thank you.
Commissioner Steilen.
Believe it or not, I don't have anything this evening. On second thought.
Commissioner Dorban.
Actually,
glad I was sitting
I
down.
have a couple of things.
Motion for adjournment after that? No.
First of all, I don't know how many of you have worked with Luca to help us work us through this iPad change. He's been wonderful, and I want to make that public. The second thing is, I just wanted to point out, last week's packet was over 150 pages. This week, we got the zoning code, which was 185 pages, plus 29 of our original packet. Oh, so it's over 200 pages there. The zoning that I downloaded was 181 pages. The sign code is 28 pages. All this in the past has been done in paper. And I think it's great that we've moved forward with doing this on an iPad and having it more readily available for all of us. There are certainly other things. I know Commissioner Steilen's put in a lot of other things, the comprehensive plan and a few other things. And I think the savings of the paper and certainly the saving of staff time to have to print all that out, get it to us. If there's changes, it's just a mass amount of things for them to have to go through. And I think this is a great move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, and to carry forward and I think Commissioner Dorban, you mentioned the links for this and for the agenda items and then the discussion on Title 19 were great. Very easy to move back and forth. I saw some discussions about folders and syncing things. I think once you have them synced, if you move them into a folder, you'll never lose them. And that's you just have to remember to move them into a different folder, and it's bringing that up and managing your files. Now, my question is about all of the zoning titles and things like that, and I possibly made a suggestion to you that could we download those into, there's an app called, now it wouldn't be in Goodreader, but you have to move back and forth out of documents anyway, into iBooks. And a lot of times you can download a PDF and it will ask you if you want to load it into iBooks. And then when you load it into iBooks, it's there and it's sitting on the shelf. You just bring it up when you want to do that. I don't know if that's a possibility or not to do that, the documents.
From a compatibility standpoint, I'm just not familiar with it enough to know. I mean,
Can't hear you.
From a compatibility standpoint, I'm not familiar enough to know if it would work. It sounds like it would. I don't think there's any problem with it. I think either or is fine if you're more comfortable in one or the other.
Oh, yeah, I don't.
So I think the question for us though is how to get those documents out to everybody. Do we put them in a website? Do we put them on the village website somewhere so that they can all be downloaded? Because if we put them in the sync folder, you end up syncing them, and then the next time you go to sync, if it's still in there, you're syncing another giant document. So I think that's part of what we need to do. But I can ask IT about iBooks.
Yeah, put them in a PDF and.
It's a good idea. I didn't even consider that because I've just been putting things in a separate folder.
Sure, and that works also, but you're still going in and out too. So, I thought about that. So whatever is easier, and putting them in a different folder in Goodreader is fine also.
I'll tell you what I did. There's a little button on the bottom that looks like a wireless symbol. Mm-hmm. If you click on that wireless symbol, it gives you an IP address, and you just go to your PC at home, click on My Documents, and add that IP address, and I can access the Goodreader files from home. And I just copied all my stuff. I mean, I've got the town center plan and everything in here in Goodreader, and it was simple, easy, quick, like a snap.
When can you come to my house?
Yeah.
I can write up a little
That's a great
thingy
idea.
on how to do it. It's really simple.
Oh.
I don't know how you do it on a Mac, but I can do it.
I have a PC at home
then
too,
there's no
so
problem.
I have both. That's cool.
I'll do that for the next time. Or I'll send it to Andrew, and Luca can verify it. And
yeah, you want to make sure from security standpoint that you can do that. I know the IP address is there, but I'm sure they might not want that type of access to the Village of Wheeling network. But I think that's something that consider for Luca. And when you brought up caps before, it made me think, because I've been driving down that way a couple of times. Weren't they supposed to have their landscaping started? I saw some flags there like they had Julie come out, but I thought they were going to have their landscaping started. So if you could look into that, that's great.
Sorry, Jim, who were you talking about?
Caps.
Oh.
Caps. And then I heard there was actually Commissioner Johnson made a comment about the daycare center on McHenry Road having a different color. And then somebody else made a comment to me. A different color paint. It was a different color.
I think it's some kind of primer that they were putting on.
Oh, okay.
Because then they were covering it up with white again.
Oh, okay.
So that might have just been some kind of base coat before there, so.
Yeah, I've been watching it every day, but it looked strange at first when I first looked at it.
It was orange. It was.
Yeah, yeah, so I was waiting for it. I figured there must have been something. I think there were maybe some kind of a seal coat on it.
Yeah, because it's starting to change again, so.
And then the Phillips 66, as soon as I mentioned it last week, the very next day they were working on tearing up, on the weekend they were tearing up the.
Yeah, they were breaking up all the cement.
All the cement.
So somebody does watch this show, huh?
Right, yeah, apparently. Commissioner Johnson, anything?
No, sir.
Commissioner Burns?
Yes. Tonight we approved the petitioner waste management plans for their truck repair facility. Commissioner Stylen, you dissented, and you said for the aforementioned reason. Is that reason because the village board previously rejected an auto repair facility in the same industrial park?
yes.
Well, I guess I would like to discuss as a commission, that seems unfair to the petitioner, to me, who comes before the plan commission, that we would base our vote on what we divine the village board will do when he goes before the village board. So I guess I'd like to hear if that's really part of our deliberations or if what the rest of the commission feels about that. Or yourself, if you can tell me why you think that's...
Well, I'll make a comment first. My opinion, one of the things that we have been lacking, and actually I was quite surprised that they turned that down also, because if you look overall at what that property was, it was a vast improvement over what is there and what's going to be there. But then again, we also have a comp plan and a vision, okay? So I think we have to weigh, when will that vision become reality? And the village board might know something that might become more of a reality than we do. So I think there's some type of sync that has to go on between us and the village board. That's my opinion. As to a vision and how it's, or do we just say that the comp plan says it's going to be this, and we should have never voted for it? Because we're saying that the comp plan is going to be, we have got an idea of what, well, actually, that's in the TIF district, that the Southeast TIF district that we've been
hiring a consultant for.
That we're consulting for. So there's going to be further news on it, and maybe that was the reason why they did that. Mr. Steilen?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's my understanding that they've hired a consultant to reanalyze that area of town, and if they're reanalyzing, I knew you guys would say yes. I didn't want it to be unanimous because, they have another opinion. So I'd be willing to listen to their opinion, and I'm just recommending not.
Right.
Okay. I think that would be a good reason to tell a petitioner that this is why I'm voting no. But I guess I wasn't able to understand all that when you said that you were anticipating the village board might turn it down because they turned down the auto repair on the other corner of the park.
Great. Anything else?
That's it. Thank you.
The bottom line is we're still a recommending body.
Right.
So, I mean, what we might think, is right when it gets to them. That's their.
And even if we have the same kind of vision, I mean, that was a beautiful building, and it would have improved that area tremendously.
Well, now tonight's plan is not building a new building. It's making use of a building that's sitting there vacant and ugly.
Right.
And they've already started.
They tore half of it down, though.
Yeah, they've already started with the deconstruction.
And to Commissioner Johnson's point, not nearly as visible as the other piece of property that was being developed.
I guess my concern was that, yeah, we're just a recommending body, but when the petitioner comes here with his plans, with his staff, and makes a presentation, he's coming to the Plan Commission, and we're supposed to make using our independent judgment, we're supposed to make the Plan Commission's recommendation. And if the village board decides to go in another direction or come to a different decision, that is as it should be.
But you have to take that a step further with in mind the comp plan and any other, if they have an idea for that TIF district, which we're supposed to be, which is going to, there's going to come a recommendation to us with those things in mind in addition.
And I just say, I think that's why some things are special uses, right?
Right.
There are other circumstances. It isn't permitted. They can't just go and build it today. It's a special use. They have to do special things. So.
Okay, thank you.
I have a thought on that. The meeting between the staff, the village board, and the Plan Commission to kind of get on board as to, and I really thought it was to get alignment between the Planning Commission and the village board.
Jim is heading up that subcommittee, aren't you, Jim?
Well, now once they've hired a consultant, I'll probably be part of it, but not to the extent that we were thinking before. So, but anyway, you were continuing on with something.
Okay, to go back to that, I thought it was to try to align what the planning commission thinks and what the village board thinks as to, to avoid, well, we're going to approve the dentless, and then the board goes and says, nope, we don't want to do that. And I thought that that's what that meeting was for, and maybe subsequent meetings is to align that.
Well, even if we made a recommendation for the TIF district, and even if a consultant makes the recommendation to the TIF district, and we say that this area here will be a hotel use or a restaurant use, it still has to come before us to say, if a dentless place came in and that we see the vision of that TIF district being 15, 20 years down the road, then why would we not approve a dentless place, even though there is something that says that this area should be something else?
Yeah, and I thought it was a zoning issue that we changed the zoning, right? On that dentless?
The zoning boundary went right across, transected their property. It was B something on Milwaukee Avenue, and it was I-3 to the west, and they wanted it all to be I-3. Is that right, Andy?
Right. And I thought that's what we did.
The B3 covered the property, and they were requesting to bring some of the I-3 toward the new property line.
Didn't they want to move the I-3 all the way to Milwaukee Avenue for the?
No.
No?
No, they just wanted to get their new building.
Complete?
Okay,
that's right.
but, wait a second, I may have gotten confused. Are we talking about the zoning change tonight?
No.
No, there was no
No,
zoning change.
there was no zoning change. Okay, so we're still talking about the dentless.
Right, yep.
Okay, and there was a zoning change.
Yes. You say
The village board doesn't get to turn down a zoning change, do they?
Oh, yeah.
Do they?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We're just recommending.
We're
No, wait a
recommending.
minute. No, zoning commission is, aren't we the zoning commission?
Yeah.
So we get to change the zoning.
Recommend change.
Recommend
Oh,
change.
we can recommend a change. Okay, because I thought that the zoning board actually changed the zoning.
We do.
But we can
When they
only-
say yes,
but-
we change it. And we sign it.
The only thing we can improve is what kind of plants people are going to plant, right?
Yeah, appearance.
Then it's iffy.
Appearance, right. Right. And we're the sign commission too, so. Is that recommending sign too?
No, we
No,
can do
I don't think sign, we can make sign changes, so. Plan commission and zoning are recommending.
Okay, all right. Now, whereas I thought the zoning
No.
board we were the zoning board, and we can change the zoning, but now we can only recommend.
Not now, I mean, it's always been that
Oh,
way.
I mean, always been that way.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Aren't we the zoning board of appeals?
We are.
too, though? What,
The
do we
plan-
have
The
any?
Plan Commission has some of the, I don't know how much description you want. on
Yeah.
the
We
Plan
could be here
Commission
all
has-
night.
Plan Commission has some of the responsibility of the zoning board of appeals, and the village board has the authority of the zoning board.
Right.
Oh, so we can't even make changes there?
Your
You're still-
responsibility is to hold the hearings that are required by law to be held for the ZBA actions. The plan commission is not the authority in the sense of a zoning board of appeals because of the way the code is set up. It is not the voting authority on it.
So we can do plants and signs, right?
Plants and signs.
There you go.
Anything else?
One staff note, there are two items on the village board agenda for Monday night that you may want to watch. There's a discussion of a proposed development on the Kinney Construction property that if it does go through the concept review with the village board, would eventually go to the Plan Commission for review. So you may want to watch that either in person or on video later to see how they present it and the comments that are made about it. And then there's also a discussion of the idea of concept review in general. So both of those may be worth checking in on.
Great, thank you. Ms. Jones, anything? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? Got one of those. All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned at 9:05.